What's going on, Workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And I've got my popcorn. So if you don't mind me, we've got a spicy topic. And Chris, why don't you get everybody caught up on what we're talking about today? Because this popcorn's great.
I ended up on a couple of threads. Brian was in a meeting working, being a productive member of society. And I was like, hey, I'd love to record with you and push our post for tomorrow back so we can talk about something spicy. And he's like, yeah, sure. You know, just leaves like a little bit of room for me to like, just say like, hey, you know, I don't know how urgently you can get out of that meeting, but it's the sort of thing where you might need to feel insulted on behalf of a group of people that's not us. And he's like, okay. And I was like, to make it even more interesting, the offender this time is Square Enix.
And I sent this back. Let me just see if I can't full screen it. Get it on there. Like, what?
What? and so somebody was actually put in jail for something not doing anything wrong. And so let's ride along. There's a couple of different threads on this. This one, it feels like they point back to this one.
Yeah,
this
and links
like
will...
a screenshot of at least an example of the original offense. I don't know if where the actual origin point is. This seems to be the origin point as far as Reddit goes. And we have an interaction between a player who has been put in in-game jail. For those of you that don't know, it's a real thing. Mm-hmm. And so you get a message that says, greetings, so-and-so. I am so-and-so, and I apologize for the sudden disruption, but there was a matter I must discuss with you. Please be advised, do not log out while you are here in the jail. If you do, you will remain here when you next log in until a game master is available to come and release you. Now, they're talking to an RPer here, so the RPer, it's kind of hard to tell the difference because they're both oddly polite, as opposed to, I think, if they had gotten a non-RPer, I could have told which text was which easier.
Why am I here?
They both use full sentences and punctuation most of the time. So, hello, thank you for your reply. I brought you here this evening because we had recently received a report that concerned one of your characters. When we reviewed the report, we did find a violation we needed to address with you. And to what do I owe this honor?
Go
on. Specifically, you were found to have posted a party finder listing, which was deemed in violation using another one of your characters. Another key that this is an RP player, since that's a good portion of the people that have multiple characters. Mm-hmm. I'm curious about something. I brought you here so I might issue you a warning against using the party finder in this fashion. I'm intrigued.
Okay.
Certainly.
You first had my curiosity.
Would you like to ask?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you have a moment. This is about the RP venues, I assume. We have an RP tag, and I can offer our free company house or home as an RP place, and RP is sanctioned by the maker of Eorzea. Mm-hmm. Why is there an issue with this using the other tab in Party Finder? We are all curious at this point. Many of my friends have already spoken with you. The Party Finder tab is intended to be used for the formation of parties to attempt content. This is the single most important word in this entire post.
We're going to come back to this.
Content. We are going to come back to this word. Essentially, that system is in place to help players find other players for duties, raids, map parties, hunts, etc. All things containing under the term content. It is not intended as a social feature, whereas something like the Fellowship Finder is. As you noted above, we have no issue with players RPing. It is just the manner in which it is being advertised, another key word we're going to discuss here, since having listings like this in the Party Finder can make it more difficult for other players to use it for the intended purpose. No disagreement here. I see. I was not aware of this, as it had been used in this way since I started playing over a year ago. Mm-hmm. It was not my intent to misuse it, but other is a very broad term. Don't you agree? It is. But that is partially why you are only being issued a warning this evening. I fully believe that you had no intention of doing anything improper. I wanted to address this with you so you might avoid any further issue. Notice that the punctuation and poor typing here is on behalf of the non-RPer. Way to go, RP community, for really crushing it. Like, you guys.
Let's not dunk on the GM here. This guy's probably making 10 to 15.
No. I just thought it was funny that like because I type very poorly, and so I would expect somebody who types professionally, and like it's more of a compliment to the RPer,
Okay. Gotcha.
who might be a controller player. So
Yeah.
like it was more of a compliment to them because not a dig on the GM. Just to make
Controller
that
players do it longer, so it's
I just off of a total rabbit hole there. Okay, I am obligated to inform you though, should this occur again in the future, you are far more likely to receive a more serious punishment instead of simply a verbal warning like this. I do appreciate it. This is my second home, and I would hate to be banned. We are all discussing options to make sure we are staying within proper guidelines. I am sorry you have to work so hard this evening, pulling a million of us in here. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me about this. Before I document that we were able to speak, was there anything else you might like to ask? No, sir. I thank you for explaining it to me. We will be utilizing other ways to advertise our venue from now on. I'm glad to hear it, and thank you again for your time tonight. Farewell. Both sides incredibly polite. Neither side upset here. This is actually like both sides were well spoken. Came at it from they both believe that they're in the right here, but there's two words here that I think make this a topic.
Right. Yes.
The first of which is content.
What is content?
What is content?
So, coming from a Final Fantasy XI background, role-playing is content. Leveling is content. Content is what you choose to do in the world that you are provided, with the tools that you're provided. And so I have a big problem with the fact that they've been using this for a year, and now it's in violation. Inconsistent, which is something we see happen, and I would say the internet in total.
Yeah.
Wants consistency. When we talk about the issues with that Twitch has had, like every time Twitch has come up from a frustration perspective, it's because they dole out their terms of service in a very vague, and it's vague so it can be inconsistent, so they can have that gray space as opposed to being
it protects them because they can't come up with every possible scenario. It'd be 90 million pages long. How do you anticipate somebody misusing a horse gif?
I know. Oh no. And so, but here it's like, hey, and then what got turned on to make this now a problem within the game? Now we already saw that they are taking a much more hardline stance. We've seen lots of conversation move out of the game and into third party. What this does, regardless of content, whether you define content as this or not, it just moves people out of the ecosystem to seek out other tools. The question is how soon does that end up just kind of translating into, well, we're just playing another game at this point. So I
WoW
never
supports
knew
the
this
RP
was...
community with a third-party tool. Third-party tools are against TOS. So they are supposed to use in-game tools.
Right.
That is the intention. Now, they have clearly said that they feel that Party Finder is the problem and that they should be using Fellowship Finder.
That's ridiculous because, well, I mean, like Fellowship Finder, yeah, like if that's something they want to advertise there, and maybe that came in because they just recently added it, I think at some point, with Shadowbring or something like that. But what about all the people like violating terms of service in the Party Finder, like selling
runs,
selling clears
for cash, not for even gil.
Right. It's like
straight up cash.
Hey, go to this site, connect on Discord.
Go to our website.
Now
here's our Discord.
They do all the business side of it outside of it. I met with Benny, and he's like, you can go at any point find people who are doing this actively all the time, and hold on, nope, don't see anything here. And
selling inappropriate things in RP.
Mm-hmm.
Selling adult content. Advertising is the second word, and there is lots of advertising in this game.
Now,
so not knowing what this group was doing,
right.
It sounds like they clearly intend to follow the rules. So they clearly are inviting and saying, hey, come look at our in-game chat. Come go for it. We're not trying to do anything wrong here. Simply RPing. This is my second home. So I think my issue here is that content word. We are saying RP is not content. You are just a thing that some people do in the corner that, we'll allow it. And that is not fair for a game that prides itself on a dense housing system that we continually get items added to every single patch cycle, it feels.
Now, I have up on the screen right now the meme about selling with the GMs just like, sleeping silently. And then roleplay venues, we got to get on top of them. obviously within the content and within that. We're going to come back to this post here in a minute because I want to talk with Chris a little bit more about like content and what the solution might be. But there are some really interesting responses here, everybody. I want to highlight like at least one or two because I think it adds to the overall like discussion that is going on right now with the 14 community. So just stick around, guys, just a little bit. We'll be covering a couple more things here. So what's the solution, Chris? Like what, like obviously inconsistent in GM. What are you going to do, right? Like,
I think part of their frustration is that different regions use Party Finder differently.
Mm-hmm.
JP uses Duty Finder and Party Finder literally almost entirely inverted from how we use things.
That's right. That's very true.
They use Party Finder as a place to line up for clears, and Duty Finder as a place to prog. We use that that way, and they use it the other way.
Yeah, you do not go into Duty Finder.
You do not hop into Duty Finder unless you know your stuff. You are ready. Swapping out a stranger is not going to make a difference on JP servers. Mm-hmm. You are ready for the clear. If you need to learn, you go into... Now, I saw another meme today talking about brambles, and they said that, the illusion of choice, and you join a clear party and you join a brambles progression party, and either way, you end up in a brambles progression party. So on NA servers, like, we don't know what we want. But, like, I think different regions use different tools differently, and I think the problem here is that rather than say, hey, there's an other tab that seems to be this giant catch-all, let's look in the other tab and let's ban things that are against TOS. I read TOS again today. I probably end up reading it a couple times a year because of this. I don't see anything in here exclusively about Party Finder. So unless I'm just bad at reading, well, I am bad at reading. Unless I just missed it, then like I don't see anything in here deciding how we're allowed to use features outside of that we're not allowed to advertise for selling things. So like it just verified that the thing I don't want to see in Party Finder is against TOS.
We've used Party Finder.
It's in the other tab.
We've used Party Finder as a community time and time and time again for various advertising. And that's one of the things I wish that we would just have a general bulletin board like, hey, I'm doing this in game. So I'm creating, just like the game needs tools and we don't have them. And then the tools they have are on the lodestone, like let's say the free company, like recruitment, and things like that. All that ends up being somewhat outside the game. The game just has the general policy that it's going to be outside the game. And so this is just going to further drive people to using more tools outside the game. And it only will, in my mind or my fear, impact new players coming in. Hi guys, I'm new to 14. I like to do role playing. Shut up. Here's the thing, you gotta go. It's like, be careful, like, because it, like, you don't want to get in trouble and more. And this actually takes a turn. I don't know if you're aware of this.
Don't warnings last forever, by the way?
That's what I was about to get to. Warnings last forever. My biggest concern is that about the people getting these warnings on their account, that this is not going to be able to get removed. And Irie, and forgive me if I'm butchering it, links will be in the description for all this. You want to go get some love.
We're not great at reading. We're typing. There's typos in our titles. So just so no.
Not on purpose.
That's our high ground.
There it is. Yeah. This right here. Inconsistent rule enforcement together with the fact that SEGMs, more than any other game that they've played, have garnered a rep for being uncontrolled, whimsical, and contradictory, and are such a huge bleeping problem, because if you ever have to get a black mark on your account, it's there forever. You can spend 10 years directly donating, being the best, being the brightest, being the most patient, most reasonable person ever, and essentially, yeah, you can still get banned. There's no way to get it off. There's no... Like, it is just this, like, the scarlet letter, the black mark. You've been marked. So essentially, that is the thing why they are so bothered by this. And so anyway, that's why I'm bothered by the fact that people who find the RP community to be an annoyance or a laughingstock treat this as such a non-issue, even go as far as trying to morally grandstand and pretend that all roleplay is some weird bunch of stuff, in this regards. And it's not like I roleplayed in Final Fantasy XI. And then essentially I wanted to roleplay in Final Fantasy XIV, but there really wasn't a tag. And they eventually added the tag. So you can tag that you're roleplaying. But essentially as I became, more known to the community, I didn't want to be roleplaying a character and be some kind of jerk like in game, because I didn't want that to like reflect. So if you're playing a character, it's like, what does that character think? How do they think in this situation? What are the motivations? Like, that's all something that I find utterly fascinating and just haven't had the opportunity. And I think essentially when people do hear role play, immediately they start thinking of what we all went through like 2 years ago, where all these sites are trying to get their clickbait head title, whatever's, to about like, oh, there's so much lewd. And did you know that this was going?
All role play is people taking their clothes off, and all of it, 100%.
Right.
That's what it was being
ERP.
labeled.
All RP is ERP, exotic roleplay, and that's not the case. And that's it's really unfortunate that I think essentially, and that's I think good that they were defending that. It's like, even if you're not a part of the RP community, even it's a sandbox style piece of content, and this goes back to our piece, what we were talking about earlier with the piece of content. It's sandbox. It's you're making up your own fun. You're creating your own adventures. You're having your own stories being told. And I think that gets people invested in this game. You don't have to be a part of the RP community to get invested in this game. But I think this is one of the things. And I've advocated for more sandbox content because roleplay is not necessarily for everyone.
And so what is content? So if a site out there takes a leaderboard and keeps track of the speed at which you can run duo clears of old extremes, which would be seconds if you run it unsynced. Okay? And so they're tracking it down to the 10th of a second. They're not using an add-on. It's just self-reported. They're just trusting people, or people are submitting game footage or something like that. Is that content?
Yeah.
If something like that exists?
Yes.
They're joining it to do... So is content determined by the fact that it generates a combat log? Is somebody doing crafting? Is crafting parties content? Or is that considered social? Because they're all doing their solo activity, but they want to find a group to share this with. I want to find a group to go on the fishing raid with. Is that content?
Why ultimately can we have a social
It is
tab?
not content. Here are examples of content. What you do, what you log in and enjoy for a year or more is not content.
Yeah. And that's wrong. I think they really, that this GM, and again, they're probably going off a script, or who knows, we can only...
I don't think either side is malicious here. I think both sides is trying to be polite. Both sides are just trying to make sure that the game is a fun and reasonable place to be enjoyed by all.
This just underscores the things the community has been asking for, and it's just so low on the priority list. Like, why isn't there a social tab in that? Why can't we advertise within the game certain things? Obviously, I think that then gets married with policing of those advertisements, right? Like, you don't have a, how do you do that? And it's like, I just wish we had more tools, more features in the game itself to to feed their RP community, to feed the speedrunners community, to feed all of that.
I still can't go to Limzo without getting RMT messages sent to me.
Yeah. It just feels like
such a weird area to dedicate man hours.
It's a hard line. It's a weird hill to die on, to have this just be that issue and to come out. Cause you're right. They're selling stuff in the party finder. There are all kinds of
it's in the other tab. If the other tab becomes a pile of crap, I don't care. It's the other tab.
What's it for?
If they were advertising this in the Fate tab, I'd be a little frustrated, right? Hey, I'm trying to go find some Fates for my relic grind, and I go in there and it's like all these people are selling dungeon clears and doing RP. Why are they in the Fate tab? This is in the other tab.
Yeah.
The other tab is for things that I consider group content that is not group content.
So, obviously the question is to all y'all. What do y'all think about this? Is this a good move? Is this a bad move? Did you learn something from this video? Were you aware of this? I wasn't aware that this was a violation of terms of service. And you looked up the GM. Yeah, and according to this GM, and that's
I don't see it anywhere in here.
And that would be the problem. If it's that GM's terms of service that has been violated, they get now this indelible mark that
At best, it's 3.2 disruption. You may not in any way disrupt or interfere the game experience of other players, including the disruption of Square Enix computers and servers. At best. But selling runs is disruption. Selling runs is also against 3.9 non-commercial spamming. You may not abuse, you might use or abuse the in-game chat messaging services to harass other players. There's all these things in here that...
Yeah. So that's where we're at. And let us know where you guys fall on this issue. If there's any breaking developments, we'll let you guys know. But just be careful out there, because the worst case scenario, if you lose your account. And I think that's the game, the whole community loses. when
a lot of what
somebody
we've been talking about lately has been about deciding whether or not a group of people that plays differently than you is as welcome in this community.
right.
And the theme has been that the person saying you're not welcome needs to chill out. And so I think what finds this really frustrating is the company that we love and the company that does such a great job here, seemingly well-intentioned, in this particular instance seems to be the offender. And so I think that's what feels very frustrating.
Yeah.
So I think it was just a misread by the GM.
I hope so. Anyway,
so.
well, we'll let you guys know how it goes. But for Work to Game, my name's Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks for watching. We look forward to hearing your thoughts, and we hope to see you in our next one. But until then,
Take care.